close. In January 2005, the day I feared happened. We'd lost one child, and I always feared losing another, and it came that close. A van carrying 7 children from our church was coming home from a youth rally in Dallas, and it went flipping over on I-20, a one-car accident. I went to pick up my son at church, and I could see our young female youth minister. I could see she was starting to tear up, and I said, "Sarah, is everything okay?" And she just shook her head. And I said, "Is Chris okay?" And she just shook her head. And so I and the other parents went to the emergency room, and we just waited for a report on the carnage. We found out later that the boy sitting next to my son was dead. My son came in, and he was so bludgeoned I wouldn't have been able to pick him out of a lineup. My little 6th grade boy at the time. And I got down in his ears, and I whispered the poem I'd said to him every day of his life. "Love that boy like a rabbit loves to run." I said, "I love that boy like a rabbit loves to run. Love to see him in the morning. Love to say good morning, son." And I saw little tears trickle down his cheek, and I thought, someplace in there, he's hearing all this. And we flew him over there, and all the children were taken care of. Triage took place. Later, we found out these stories. We were 20 miles from the wreck and couldn't be there. Cold January day. But people we'd never met before came upon that ditch where our children were scattered. And they parked their cars. And they took off their jackets and they wrapped them around our children. Some woman from Monahans, Texas, put her jacket around my son and told him stories and tried to keep him alert. And people were filling that ditch. I didn't get to see it, but I can imagine it. The people who were at the front of the line parked their cars, backing traffic up for hours on I-20, and they took care of our children. A few weeks later, we tried to find all of them we could. We invited them to our church. We pulled them up on stage while all of our children came up on wheelchairs and crutches, and parents came up, and the whole church gave them a standing ovation. I heard later from people who apologized. They said, "You know, we were coming back from the same youth rally. We were on I-20, and we were way back in the pack, and I was just mad. I was mad that we were delayed, and I didn't know why, but we were just upset, thought somebody's wasting our time." And I said, "Oh, trust me, I've been there. You don't need to apologize." It just makes a lot of difference whether you're looking from the front and seeing what's going on. You'd have gotten in the ditch, wouldn't you? Absolutely you would have. I'd crawl down into the ditch if I saw children littered there. But if I was back in the pack, I might just be wondering, assuming the worst, why is somebody wasting my time? Paul says, get to the front, look out there, see what God is doing. God is working powerfully among these people. They are His. And the words of affirmation come washing over us even today when Paul says, you be united in Christ, accept one another as Christ has accepted you. It's an odd thing for me to stand right here. In 1989, we started in Churches of Christ a program called Nashville Jubilee. We don't do conventions, so this was our non-convention convention. And I spoke at the first keynote the first year, 1989, and from right here in this room, I talked about unity. And the next day, a couple churches around here, they were so upset about it, they took out ads in the Nashville paper to attack it. And at the time, I was upset. Now I'm not upset by that. I understand some of that worldview, but I think when you make doctrinal precision the do-all and be-all of your religion, it's going to lead there to ostracizing and judging and distancing. Paul will not do that because Jesus has worked among these people. And so unity does win over disunity, and love does win over bitterness, and inclusion wins over distancing people. Now, I've asked Ken if the group would come up and join me just for a second here. This is what it looks like. This is, like, I guess, one advantages of Churches of Christ, our strong heritage of singing in parts. I want them to sing the song, Jesus in the Morning. Most of you know that. Just listen to them sing it, and sing it in unison the first time if you would.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus in the morning, Jesus at the noontime. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus when the sun goes down.
Do it again, and everybody join them in unison, please.
Jesus, Jesus, Jesus in the morning, Jesus at the noontime. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus when the sun goes down.
And now straight four-part harmony. Sopranos, altos, tenors, basses.
Jesus, Jesus,